Good evening, my lovelies, and welcome. I'm Lady Creepypasta. Do you have a celebrity crush, my darlings? If you do, leave me a comment below and let me know who it is. Today's tale, by author RedNovaTyrant of the Creepypasta Wiki, tells of one boy's crush and how he finally did get to meet the woman of his dreams. Or was it his nightmares? Come now, my dears, lean in closer, and we'll begin. Kelly Royale was the woman of my dreams. Her flawless pale skin captivated every guy in my grade at the sight of her image. Even just mentioning her name brought on ravings from each of us in the locker room, bragging on about how we'd bone her if given the chance. Alas, it was just another dream of your typical hormonal high school boy. To actually meet a celebrity like her was highly unlikely, even if she had grown up in our hometown. I wasn't really into her music. Pop wasn't exactly within my realm of taste, but with Kelly, I indulged in her angelic voice and sexy movements on camera. Her baby blue eyes stood out from the makeup and blush, and her strawberry blonde hair trickled down her perfect shoulders. Each new glamour shoot and music video only made me more delighted to see her. I wasn't a stalker type though, let's make that clear. It's just every guy has their ideal woman, and she fit the bill to a T for me. When she won the title of Venus of the Year, I was even more ecstatic. Kelly Royale had a following, sure, but with this, she'd be pushed into the spotlight even more. Which meant I'd get to see her around even more. And see her I did. Playboy, with their last dying breath, managed to bring her on for a couple of photos. I'm sure I wasn't the only guy in my grade to pop a few boners, though I wasn't degenerate enough to be looking at her in class. But when I did see her, I was enraptured. The same bright hair, perfect breasts, slim legs, and those arousing eyes. How I prayed for a girl like her to be mine. The spotlight certainly did wonders for her, and eventually rumors began to spread about her. On a more positive side of the whispers, it was said that Kelly had accepted an offer from a certain doctor about having a new kind of plastic surgery done. Apparently, there's not any actual plastic used in most surgeries. The term just meant reshaping, from some old Greek word. But if these rumors were true, this doctor had invented a new kind of artificial skin. One that would stay moldable thanks to the heat given off by the body or something. I didn't really understand most of the details, but eternally preserved beauty was definitely within my vocabulary. Sure enough, after a few weeks of silence, Miss Royale made a special appearance on a late-night talk show. They advertised it the whole week prior, so I made damn sure to stay up and see her. She had somehow become even more perfect, and the outfit she wore was barely allowable on live TV. Kelly explained she wanted to show off as much of the surgery's effects as she could, and she was not holding back. The audience roared and cheered and whistled, and I had to keep my own voice down as to not alert my parents to what I was watching. When the show host asked her about the procedure, Kelly just smiled and held a delicate finger to her lips. She said she couldn't really talk too in-depth about it other than a few scant facts. The host was allowed to touch her forearm, and he reported that it felt like the smoothest skin on earth. Then, with her next revelation, Kelly shocked everyone. Nearly every inch of her skin had been replaced. There were murmurs in the crowd for a moment, and I swallowed slightly. My imagination had gotten quite good from practice, but in that moment, all I could see was Kelly lying on a surgical table, muscles exposed and blood flowing off the edges in multiple places. Twitching in pain, her eyes stared up at me, pleading for help. I was snapped back to reality as Kelly reassured everyone that she was totally fine and the procedure was completely painless, and that she could live just as comfortably as before. The host even joked that she was the world's first living Barbie doll. This worked well to comfort all watching, but I thought that behind those blue eyes, I could make out a well of sadness for something else. But even that was a bit presumptuous of me, and I disregarded the thought as quickly as it had come for the moment. When I asked the other guys at school the next day if they had noticed anything, though, one of them suggested that one of the more sinister rumors might have been true. Apparently, there were reports floating around that a few guys had committed suicide recently over not being able to be with her. Comparisons were being thrown around with that Bjork stalker from a few years back, but there was no evidence directly indicating that Kelly Royale was the reason they took their lives. Regardless, you can imagine my utter shock seeing her on my way home one day from school. She was just standing there, gawking at the building. Her forlorn gaze and bite-scarred lip told me she was upset, and that I probably shouldn't bother the celebrity. But this was Kelly Royale, my idol, the one person I wanted to meet more than any. Miss Royale, you okay? Was the only thing I could say between stutters. She didn't respond, continuing to stare at the school like a zombie. I decided to take a risk. I reached forward for her arm and tugged softly. Her skin truly was divine. I'd never felt something so soft before. If it wouldn't have been so weird, I'd wished to hold her hand for days on end, enjoying the texture of her palm's embrace. I tried to memorize the feeling, for personal use later. Gazing up at her again, though, for the first time ever, her eyes did not bring me comfort. They terrified me. Wide and horrific, piercing through my own and delivering a strange terror to my heart. She looked deathly afraid, but whether of me or something else I couldn't tell. Their bloodshot nature spoke at lengths of her lack of sleep, and she almost seemed to gasp for breath. Miss Royale? I stammered again, trying to break her free of the trance while taking a step back. Finally, her 1,000-yard stare ended, and she began to take notice of my presence. Oh, my apologies. Do you go here? She pointed at my bag. I nodded. I see. You know, a lot has changed since I used to go here. She trailed off, biting her lip again before giving me a smile. You called me Miss Royale? I take it you're a fan? I tried to hide the blush, but it was impossible. I nodded quickly. She grinned, then looked around strangely and reached into her coat for a pen. My heart stopped for a moment before my body jumped and my arms started scrambling through my book bag for the first piece of paper I could find for her. Quickly, she scratched down an autograph after asking my name and then handed the paper back to me. To Warren, study hard and live a long, wonderful life. Miss Royale. I went to thank her, but her hand on my cheek put me on pause yet again. Though it was gentle and kind, something about how she grasped my jawline felt forced, almost desperate. The comfort of her perfect skin clashed against the minor shakes that came from her grasp. I wanted to say something, but she simply giggled and replied to my unspoken gratitude. You're welcome. Then, without another word, she turned and walked away. I was possibly one of the last few people to see her alive. Kelly Royale wandered into oncoming traffic downtown and died at the scene. Witnesses claimed that she seemed rather distracted as she stepped out into the road, so it was hard to tell if it had been intentional or not. At least she had passed away in her hometown. It made the funeral and burial easier. All of my friends were distraught about it. I didn't dare show them the autograph. Not yet, at least. It just didn't seem right. Besides, I was upset too. Seeing her writing would only bring out tears. About a week after her funeral, I was still depressed about the whole ordeal. The memory of our meeting repeated in my head over and over, causing me to toss and turn in my bed night after night. Lying down one particular night, the images came onto me tenfold. Those damned baby blues stuck out the most. No matter what I did, all I saw when I tried to rest was her haunting stare. The foul stench forced me to wake from whatever sleep I was beginning to attain, but the sight to come kept me from falling back into slumber as much as I desired it. Standing at the edge of my bed was a naked Kelly Royale. Her pristine skin shone in the beams of light that made their way through my window, and normally I'd be very excited, but as time passed, I began to realize what was wrong with this image. First, I recalled that Kelly was dead, so the horrible smell only freaked me out even more as I came to the conclusion that a zombie was standing at the foot of my bed. Then I noticed the cracks. All over her body were countless lines and chips, with brown oil slipping out from between their edges to stain her ghastly white skin. Around her major joints, the cracks were far larger, and massive drops of sludge pooled before falling to my bedroom floor with a loud splat. The rubber that had kept her beauty intact had grown cold and hard from lack of human heat, and was now splintering as the corpse moved about. Her hair, once silky and flowing, was now tangled and stringy, covering half of her disfigured face. Her blue eyes could not be seen, now replaced with empty sockets that seemed to pulse around the exterior. She breathed slowly with a disgusting gurgle that matched the sound of a sick person vomiting. I pulled my blanket up to my nose, both to hide from the monster and to try and cover the stink. Miss? I stuttered yet again, but this time I could not finish. I held back a scream as the creature made horrific noises, like it was trying to clear its throat before it spoke. "Warren," it croaked, "forgive me." Forgive her? Forgive her for what? He sent me back. I brushed those boys off. I didn't know. My ignorance would make them... Oh God, please, forgive me. Kelly's corpse moaned and wailed as her hands slowly drifted over her body. I could hear one side of her stomach crack and pop, and shortly after, a tube of meat slung itself out, dangling from the hole. I swallowed my own vomit, too afraid to make any sudden movements lest this thing attack me. What are you doing here? I gave you the autograph. I need to atone. There were many men who wanted me, and now I must show them my true self. Don't you love me, Warren? Don't you all love me? She began to grapple her breast, unable to squeeze it as it had lost all softness along with her life. I could only stare in disturbed intrigue as she grew desperate and squeezed harder, shattering her skin like a porcelain doll, letting more rotting flesh and coagulated blood ooze from the new exit. The cracks spread as she tried to dance, whispering over and over again, asking for me to want her. A Glasgow smile resulted in her jaw dropping to the floor, quite literally leaving her undead tongue swinging in the open. And then she began to crawl onto the bed. I couldn't hold myself back any longer. I screamed and kicked for her to get off me, but she would not retreat. The stench only grew stronger, and it clung to my hands as I slapped and punched her repeatedly. My feet pushed my blanket upwards, trying to hit her abdomen, but Kelly's advance was relentless. Despite not having a mouth, her pleas persisted. She moved her head beside mine as her intestines wormed their way out of her stomach and onto my lap. My nose twitched at her filthy hair, and I groaned in immense discomfort as her hanging tongue lapped against my ear. A collection of pus and sludge pooled in my ear canal, and the zombie placed its hand on my stomach, tapping around for something more sensitive. That was the last straw. Without mercy, I grabbed Kelly Royale by the hair and yanked her back, only to pull a chunk out. The monster growled in anger at this, but I didn't care. I swung my fist upward into her stomach, breaking through instantly and leaving my hand to rest in a slithering pile of guts. Kelly brought her face to meet mine, almost as if to ask why I had done so, before the cracks overtook every part of her body. All at once, the greatest model on earth collapsed before my tear-flooded eyes, falling into a pile of mushy organs and shards of hard skin. Now Kelly Royale is the woman of my nightmares. Who's your celebrity crush, my darlings? I'll tell you mine if you tell me yours. If you're listening to this on YouTube, leave me a comment below and let me know who it is. If you enjoyed this tale, also remember to give it a thumbs up if you're watching on YouTube. And if you haven't done so already and are listening on the podcast, be sure to give this podcast a review as well. This helps others find my realm. Now, if you haven't done so already, my dears, be sure to follow me on social media. I am Lady McCreepster on Instagram, TikTok, as well as YouTube Shorts, where I release bite-sized tales of terror. As usual, before we go, I have to say thank you to my dog family on Patreon. Family members such as Dawn Fritzwater, Laura Hop 66, Kira Powell, Leslie Robinson, Oliver Dace, L. Andrew Augustus, Stephen Aguilera, Casey Eichenser, Taylor Fruth, and Bill Thornsley. If you too would like to learn how to support this channel and podcast, go to patreon.com/LadyMcCreepster. Unfortunately though, my dears, that is all the time we have this evening. Till next time, sweet dreams.